Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Delana. Today, I want to talk about TikTok. There is a lot of big changes coming up with TikTok, and no one is paying attention right now. I think a lot of people are focused on Charlie Kirk, what's going down there. Such an unfortunate event, and I know everybody's just devastated about that. But there is big changes coming down on TikTok, and it goes to what Charlie Kirk was insinuating, I think was he was coming to terms with and a lot with Israel. There's a lot of connections between what's going on with TikTok, the changes that are going on, and Israel. I always say, follow the money and all roads lead back to Israel. It's unbelievable. I just can't believe how much control Israel has over our government and even our TikTok now. They're even it's just unbelievable. So anyways, stick with me. I'm going to explain exactly how Israel is now getting control of our social media apps and TikTok being one of the biggest TikTok biggest social media platforms that we have right now that is really not being policed right now as much as a lot of the other ones are through the metadata. But TikTok is one of the last ones holding out that's still being kind of controlled by China. But again, I just want to break down what's going on there. So, again, 150 million Americans are on TikTok right now. And here's exactly what's going down. So, the US based TikTok entity is being formed and is going to be controlled by a powerful consortium of investors. Oracle, being the major infrastructure provider and the lead partner, Silver Lakes and Andreessen Horowitz, and then they have other financial backers. But so ByteDance will maintain about 20% control, and then these companies, mostly Oracle, will control the 80%. But there's some key things that I want you to keep in mind here. So back in 2019, 2021, the growing concern, and I think this is very key to understand here. So the growing concern in 2019-21, they had the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States begin reviewing Musically, which became TikTok. TikTok essentially merged with Musically. And then they started to have national security concerns because a lot of that data that was on our phones that were on TikTok or Musically, a lot of that data they were collecting on our phones, be it the photos, our search, what we were searching for, everything that they were holding that data. They could get those data off our phones if we had that app on our phones, and it was being sent back to China. So they were considering this was going to be major national security concern. So again, their concern is that our information is going to China, and they don't want that. So in 2020, President Trump issues an executive order banning transactions with ByteDance, citing national security concerns over user data being shared with China. And then days later, he issues a second order demanding ByteDance divest TikTok's US operations. So he floats around that Microsoft and Oracle could be potential buyers. In September 2020, the Trump administration says it will ban TikTok from US app stores, though this is later backed by a US judge. And then President Joe Biden revokes Trump's ban orders, but it directs his administration to assess potential security risks. So when all this is going down, so essentially, again, 2019, 2020, it's national security concerns. We're concerned about the information going to China. So fast forward a year, we get to October 7th, 2023, and we all know what down then. But then a lot more restrictions started hitting all kinds of social media outlets. So there was a sweeping crackdown on posts on Instagram, Facebook that are critical of Israel or even vaguely supportive of Palestinians was directly orchestrated by the government of Israel. According to internal metadata obtained by Dropsite News, the data showed that Meta was complied with 94% of takedown requests issued by Israel since October 7, 2023. Israel is the biggest originator of takedowns requests globally by far, and Meta has followed suit, widening the net of posts it automatically removes and creating what can be called the largest mass censorship operation in modern history. Government requests for takedowns generally focus on posts made by citizens inside the government's borders, Meta Insider said what makes Israel's campaign unique is its success in censoring speech in many countries outside of Israel. What's more, Israel's censorship project will echo well into the future, Insider said, as the AI program Meta is currently training how to moderate content will base future decisions on the successful takedown of content critical of Israel's genocide. So essentially, and this included TikTok as well. So Israel was starting to get on TikTok's case about anything that was negatively said about Israel and anything that was positive about Palestine. So this sort of started 2023. Then it hits November and December. They're kind of pushing down. So then it brings us to January, and then so 2022. They say because of the security concern. So I'm going to jump back to 2022. U.S. The traffic that the users are getting. So to create a kind of a barrier for all our information going back to China, they decide to redirect that information through Oracle, and they're going to keep it in Texas, and it's called Project Texas. So December 2022, ByteDance admits that some employees improperly accuse user data, including that of US journalists. So now we fast forward to the April 2024. So this is after October 7th. Biden signs the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act into law, requiring ByteDance to sell TikTok's US operations within 9 months or face a ban. TikTok and several content creators file suit challenging the constitution of that. And so now we fast forward to December 2024. A federal appeals court rejects ByteDance's legal challenge, and the Supreme Court agrees to hear the case on expedited basis. So now we're heading into January 2025. So now they're saying, okay, you guys, it is a security concern. We don't want any other countries holding our data. And so we're going to try to sell TikTok. So again, we're in January. The Supreme Court upholds this ruling and the law is legitimate national security measures and that the ban will take effect January 19th. And that is when it all went black. I know my daughter was devastated. I remember the day they could not believe TikTok was taken down. So when Trump came into presidency, he essentially took that ban off immediately. So on January 19th, 2025, TikTok temporarily shuts down. And then they divert the ban deadline. President-elect Trump announces on social media that he will grant an extension to allow for a deal to proceed. And that brings us to January 20. And his first day of office, he has an executive order and he says he's going to bring it back for 75 days. So then we fast forward into April. So they're still trying to make these negotiations with TikTok. Again, their primary concern is national security. And Trump extends the deadline again. So that brings us into June. And then he extends the deadline for a third time. And that brings us to where we are today. September, and that was a few days ago, September 16, 2025, Trump announces a deal has been reached to sell TikTok's U.S. operations to consortium of American investors, extending the deadline to December 16th to finalize the deal. The new entity will feature American-controlled ownership, and U.S. user data will remain on Oracle servers in the U.S. So now this is ongoing. So the whole deal is pending finalization. Under the proposed agreement, ByteDance will retain 19.9% minority and the majority owned by American investors, including Oracle, Silver Lake, and Andreessen Horowitz. U.S. users will need to download a new app that users the U.S.-based infrastructure. But Oracle is going to be the main company that's kind of housing all this information, and they're the main company that has the data, and then they have these other investors as well. And again, their main concern is housing our own data. So here's the thing, and this is where I keep saying all roads lead back to Israel. So the TikTok, the U.S. takeover is led by IDF supporters. So these two, and here's what's his name, Larry Ellison. He is the owner, and then you have his CEO. She's an Israeli born, and then he was one of the number one contributors to the IDF. So she is, again, she was a born Israeli, and she is very close friends with Bibi Netanyahu. So essentially, Oracle's taking this over, and her name is 𝐵𝐶𝐬𝐵𝐾, something like that. And anyway, so she's taking over Oracle, taking over TikTok with Oracle, and they are very, very closely aligned with Bibi Netanyahu. So Oracle and Silver Lake would play key roles in TikTok deal between Trump administration and China. So billionaire Larry Ellison has given over $26 million to the IDF and the illegal settlements in Palestine. So essentially, what they've done is they've taken everything that they don't want to go to China. They've given it now to bringing it back on US soil now. So back in the early 2020s, they essentially had it back on US soil and it was housed in Texas. So now they want even more control. And so now it's going to be controlled by Oracle. And Larry Ellison is going to own pretty much 80% of the company. So again, Oracle is very, very aligned with Israel. So Oracle is the tech giant that will host US TikTok user data on its servers, but the company's leadership has long-standing ties to Israel and the IDF. Safra Katz, she's the Israeli American born in Holon, Israel. In 2024, she was quoted saying, "Employees who are not loyal to both American and Israelis have no place at Oracle." And she has reportedly attended closed-door meetings with Israel officials and military leaders. They are 100% pro-Israel, and they are pro-IDF. And so that's the idea. So a lot of our data is held by a company that's giving money to the Israeli intelligence force. They don't want our information. They're most concerned, if we go back, rewind to 2019-20, their main concern was getting data, our own data for national security, getting it off into China. But now they've essentially handed it over to a company that is literally in the back pocket of Israel. And he has given more than $26 million to the Israeli intelligence force. Uh, I swear to God, you can't make this shit up. It's unbelievable. And here you go, buddy with Netanyahu. And again, so Larry Ellison is very close. He also gave a lot of money to Trump's campaign, and he's been very much in Trump's back pocket ever since the election. They've been very close. And again, close ties. And here's the second part of this. So they have also hired somebody to be kind of the main person that goes against anything that is bad said on the anything bad on the program or in the app. It goes to this person, and she's the hate speech manager. So essentially, now they've hired a hate speech manager. She's an ex-Israeli soldier. TikTok appoints former Israeli army instructor as hate speech manager. So not only do you have now Oracle, who is literally supporting Israel and IDF, now they've hired a hate speech manager who is an ex-Israeli soldier, and these people are going to be the ones censoring now your TikTok feeds. So TikTok has appointed Erica Mindell, a self-described proud American Jew and former Israeli military instructor, as its new public policy manager for hate speech, a move that comes amid heightened scrutiny over the platform's handling of anti-Semitic and extremist content. TikTok has not issued an official comment on the appointment. Mindell assumed the full-time New York-based role in July. She is tasked with shaping the company's hate speech policy, leading strategic initiatives, and serving as TikTok's internal external expert on anti-Semitism, according to her LinkedIn profile and job description. Again, so now we have Israel, a company, well, US-based company that is in the back pocket of Israel and the IDF. Now we have an ex-Israeli military instructor kind of policing the hate speech on the platform. And this is all for the good of the Americans. It's just, it's unbelievable. And again, and then we go back to the News Corps. I don't even listen to Fox News anymore. I think it's just become an echo chamber. And if anybody, and I really truly believe, and Megyn Kelly's been talking about this, Tucker Carlson, and it's like this younger generation and anybody that sticks their head out beyond these, like, Fox or CNN or anything like that, you stick your head out from underneath the sand, you can see how much Israeli is it is essentially controlling the US right now. It's unbelievable. So you have all these news corporations, and it's, again, run by Rupert Murdoch, and Rupert Murdoch has long been a vocal and powerful supporter of Israel, with his media empire generally reflecting a pro-Israel stance. This is being demonstrated through his public statements, business dealings, and the editorial direction of his outlets. So the media coverage from Murdoch's publications, particularly those in the US, like the New York Post and Fox News, all widely seen as consistently pro-Israel. In late 2024, at a Sydney synagogue, Murdoch stated that Israel has stood alone on the front line of Western democratic civilization. A journalist from Sky News has alleged internal pressure to be favorable towards Israel and in their reporting. So it's like we're not and getting the real truth. It's like, and then you look at the politics and the APAC and how much APAC has affected all the politicians. They're essentially all being supported by APACs, which is an Israeli pro lobbyist. And if you go against them, not only will Apex not pay help you with your campaign, so they will actually give money to your opponent to make sure that you are literally buried. So essentially, they are controlling 98% of people in Congress right now get money from AIPAC. 98%. And the few that actually get through are few and far between, because if you say anything against Israel, you are essentially buried. And then you have the ADL, and then why do they have so much control? And why is the media so backed Israel as well? And it's because of the ADL. You can't so the ADL essentially is on top of all the marketers. So when you wanna advertise, if you go on some kind of platform where they're anti-Israel, the ADL will come after you as a business and say, "You can't advertise on that network because they're against the Jews or against Israel," and they will attack you. So the ADL, again, it fights all forms of anti-Semitism and bias, using innovation partnership to drive impact, a global leader in combating anti-Semitism, countering extremism, and battling bigotry wherever and whenever it happens. ADL works to protect democracy and ensure a just and inclusive society for all. But again, they're just controlling everything, and one of the things that they couldn't control, and that's why they're coming after TikTok, is because they couldn't control TikTok. As I showed you earlier, they were controlling through Meta, they were controlling Facebook, they were controlling Instagram, they were controlling all the networks, all the like, I'm sure Rupert Murdoch was just an example, I'm sure they were controlling CNN and all the other ones, because they are on top of all the people that advertise on their networks, and the way they make money is through advertisers. And one of the reasons that they couldn't get on TikTok is because TikTok doesn't rely on outside advertisement for them to generate revenue. Essentially, they have the TikTok shop, and they have all these other ways to generate revenue. So they weren't essentially relying, and the ADL could not touch them. So because the ADL and they can't control them, they've now taken over 80% of their business here in the United States. And not only that, they've given that business to Oracle, who is essentially funding the IDF and is very much in the back pocket of Israel. It just it never stops. And I really truly believe that not Tucker Carlson, like I said, there all anybody that has stuck their head out from underneath the rock is seeing what's going on, and once you look and see what's going on, you can't unsee it. But the thing is, I think Charlie Kirk was trying to starting to clue onto this as well, and he was starting to be bought by there was so much I did a deep dive into all of his tax records of Turning Point, Like I said, I'm here in Scottsdale, Phoenix area, and I looked into the buildings that they purchased. They purchased, one building downtown, $2 million cash. At the end of August, they purchased the building beside it for almost $4 million cash. And as you look at the nonprofit that he started, the endowment, Turning Point Endowment, they were starting to get lots and lots of the amount of donors just skyrocketed in 2018, 19, 20. It just skyrocketed. So he was literally at the hands of his donors. And that's what Tucker Carlson said. Like he had to appeal to the donors. Like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, they don't rely on donors. So they can say whatever the hell they want, and obviously they do. They don't care. They don't give a shit. But Charlie Kirk was at the mercy of the Israelis, and they were donating to him. They were going to donate over $100 million to his thing, and that's when I think he had enough. He was like, "I'm done." And I think that's when things started to turn, unfortunately. So I don't know, guys. I think we'll see what happens, but I think everybody has to be aware what these connections are. I feel like all of this is going underneath the table. I think that I put out some videos about Apex and everybody's like, "Oh, this needs to go out farther. Why don't people know this?" And then there's some people like, "How do people not know this? Are you guys like idiots or something?" And a lot of um, people from other countries are like, "Are Americans idiots? Did they not see that they're being controlled by Israel?" And I'm just like, it's amazing to me, and it's almost like you have to lift up the rock and see underneath it, and then once you see what's underneath it, you're like, "Holy shit, that's wow." And you can't go back, and like I said, all roads lead before it was all roads lead back to Epstein, and then all roads lead back to Epstein, that lead back to Israel, that lead back to and then follow the money, and it just keep following the money, and it's sad, but at the end of the day, so just to sum it up, TikTok is now 80% owned by American companies that are essentially in the back pocket of Israel. The IDF, you know, it's all there. They're all essentially backing it. And even the people that are control of the hate speech on the platform is again ex-Israeli military. So let me know your thoughts. I just think it's very interesting. It's very frustrating. I think that the app is definitely going to change. The algorithms are definitely going to change. And then we always go back to the debate, what is hate speech and free speech? Like, where do you draw the line from hate speech to free speech? And where is that? I think Pam Bondi's got a lot of pushback from her saying that we have to stop the hate speech, but it's really hard to police it in a world where you have freedom of speech. So there's a very delicate line there, but I really feel like having an ex-Israeli military policing the hate speech on TikTok is really going to affect the algorithm for sure. It's going to be very interesting to see. So anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts. I don't know. I'm not a big TikTok user, so it's gonna make absolutely no difference to me. But what bothers me is the amount of power that Israel has over the US. And I keep saying Israel has Trump by the balls, and every time they want something, they just squeeze his balls a little bit harder. I truly believe, and people have been saying, I think Charlie Kirk was afraid of Israel, and I think Trump is afraid of Israel. There's something that they're holding the strings. I don't know what the hell is going on, but they are definitely keeping control. They are in control. Israel is in control. 100,000%. They are master manipulators, masters at blackmail. They are masters at using their money to get what they want, and that's essentially what they're doing it, and they're doing it very well. So again, please like, subscribe, share, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.